You're trying to like get a message out there, like.
Yeah, so let me tell you my intention behind it. So when we understood what the defensive strategy was going to be, as far as highlighting the PTSD, the drug use, and their argument that it was connected to the murder, they highlighted something that was a bigger problem. We heard multiple people get on the stand and say that, resources were hard to come across. Mm-hmm. There was also, the shame, essentially wanting to make sure that you still appear strong, even though internally you're going through something detrimental. It's very, very hard, and a lot of people still don't want to talk about it.
Right.
And I think I was really touched by, forgive me if I say his name wrong, Mr. Abramowitz?
Yes. Colonel Abramowitz, David Abramowitz.
Yeah. Did I get that last name right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Okay. Yeah. I was really touched by what he said, because he said, a part of the village, and he's part of the cycle, and he wishes that, maybe if he did something different, then maybe this would not have happened. Yeah. And so that made me sit back and think, well, what could be done differently? What is the help that's needed for veterans? How often does this kind of stuff happen, but maybe not on a larger scale?
Right.
But just because it's not on a larger scale doesn't mean it doesn't matter.
Right.
So that's my goal with trying to accomplish with this story, and you having that experience of being on the stand, and what you said was so powerful that we had to include in that story the other day.
Yeah.
That you felt like that could have been you if you had not made a different decision. So that's what our focus is, and then we're rounding off the story with what are the resources that are available for veterans if they need help.
Yeah. Okay. And those resources?
We found a bunch of them.
Okay.
Yeah. If you have some that you want to provide, I totally.
No. I don't know what you have. I'd have to see what you have. But
yes.
I know that 5-Star Veteran Center is a good resource and stuff like that. But I guess we can talk about that later. But
yeah.
All right, we're all good on our end. Whenever you guys are ready. Do you have Kate's got his water? He's got his water. Okay.
Yep.
Let me have my water up here.
Okay, no, whatever makes you most comfortable. So look at me the whole time. Don't worry about the camera, okay?
Okay.
Go ahead and give me your first and last name, please.
Daniel White.
And spell both for me, please.
DanielWhite.
All right. Can we get just a few of your background? Can you just reiterate for us, how long did you serve?
4 years and 17 weeks.
What branch were you in?
The Army.
And what did you do?
I was an Army Ranger.
Army Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
And you said 4 years?
4 years and 17 weeks.
4 years and 17 weeks. Okay. What happened? Why did you stop? Was it just a personal decision?
I was honorably discharged. I served my initial enlistment. I was injured when I was in Ranger Battalion, and I spent my last year at Ranger Training Brigade sitting behind a desk, and that's kind of where my military service started to kind of crumble, because all I ever wanted to be was a Ranger, and then that was taken away. So it just started a downhill spiral.
Before I want to make sure I ask this question. When did they reach out to you to do the deposition for this case?
It's been pretty much since the beginning. I guess it's been going on for a couple of years. I've talked to Mr. Townsend off and on several times through the last couple of years leading up to the deposition.
Okay. So earlier you mentioned a downward spiral. Take us through that.
Well, it was just, I feel like I had a really traumatic event, when I was injured and losing what I always wanted to do. And, I also had suffered some early childhood trauma, losing my brother at an early age. And I think a lot of that came together at that time. And, I started acting out, and my addiction spiraled. I'd probably drank all the way through high school and partied, and in the military it was pretty common for us to be drinking and play, train hard, play hard. And that's what we did. And the addiction started to spiral, and it got really bad once I got out. And I started using harder drugs and opiates. And opiates kind of led to harder drugs because opiates became more and more difficult to find, and as I used the drugs a lot to self-medicate. I did make the initial choice to take them, but is to make that feeling go away, to numb the feeling, and that's when it really got out of control in my early 20s, and
What I remember on the stand, you had said you had been diagnosed with 75% PTSD. Is that correct?
that's my rating.
That's your
yes.
rating?
Yes.
Okay. What contributed to that? Was it your injury?
It was my injury in the service. I fell and crushed my hand, and it was a pretty traumatic experience. And it's not combat related experience. It's a different experience, and I'm not sure that the body understands how the trauma comes, whether it's from combat or whatever. You still, trauma still affects your body the same way, I think.
Did your PTSD contribute at all to your spiral after the service?
Yes, I believe that was the main contributing factor. I believe that I wasn't addressing the feelings. I wasn't taking care of the mental health issues, and another huge thing that I think affects us when we get out is that we're losing that camaraderie, that unity, and I think that's huge. I think that's very traumatic as well, trying to fit back in to society, and just a lot of the feelings of failure and shame, like we talked about earlier, guilt, and not taking care of those things and wanting to just make them go away.
So was shame the reason why you did not try and get help or try and find a way to make this go away?
I think that contributes a lot to it because, we don't want to admit that we're weak. It's the stigma of coming forward and talking about what's really going on. And, I've done a lot of looking into statistics. I'm not going to quote any because I'm not that kind of guy, but like the rates of suicide and in law enforcement. And I talked to my pastor the other day, and he talks about the amount of officers that he knows that have ended their lives because of one thing or another, but usually I believe it's because of trauma that they're not handling, because they're afraid they're going to lose their badge, or their job, or what they always wanted to do, and I think that it makes it difficult for people to come forward, first responders, especially military personnel, because we were always told to suck it up, and
it sounds a lot like pride.
It can be, yeah, ego. I think ego would probably be a better word. I mean, I guess it's okay to have a sense of pride, but I think it's your ego that keeps you from seeking help, because you're afraid that you're going to be judged or, terminated from your job.
So what made you go get help?
Which time? I mean, there was lots of times that I tried, and it's not impossible to find help, but I think it's more difficult than it should be or could be. Several times I went to different rehabs and detoxes and mental health facilities. you know, trying to figure out my path, but I never got to the point to where I had hit my bottom, really, and you know, once I had reached that point, I really wouldn't take no for an answer, I guess, but luckily for me, things kind of fell in line. You know, when I was in Veterans Treatment Court, and you know, shortly after, you know, Patrick had left and whatnot, and all that COVID started, is when I had reached that point, and I asked for help. You know, I went to, you know, Amanda Mills at the 5-Star Veterans Center. I went to her and told her I wanted to go get off of a medication that I was on, medication-assisted treatment, and you know, I wanted to get off of that because they had told me that, you know, the doctor told me I may have to be on it for the rest of my life. Wow. And I didn't accept that. So,
right. Who wants to take meds for the rest of their life?
Right. And I was, you know, at that time I was also abusing that medication and street meds, and so when I got to that point and went and talked to Amanda, they were able to get me into treatment the next day, mm-hmm. which is like a miracle. You know, that was definitely God at work there. Yeah. And you know, I was picked up by Heroes Mile the next day, and I started that journey down there to get clean. However, there was a lot of times where I was seeking help, where it was like, oh, we can do it, but you know, it's going to be 30 days or, you know, 2 months, and that's a long time. That's a long time. And usually when that happens, you just kind of lose hope, and you know, it starts that cycle all over again. You go.
Did they tell you why it would be 30 days or 2 months?
Well, I believe that it's because that they don't have enough resources. You know, I don't think it's that the VA doesn't try to be able to help veterans. I think they just don't have enough help and funding, and you know, I don't believe they expected the influx of you know, like more and more mental health patients coming in, and you know, especially from all the, you know, post 9/11 conflict and everything, and guys coming back from that.
It goes back that far, like a lack of resources.
I think it's probably been that way since the beginning. I mean, my grandfather even talks about the difficulty of getting to the VA, and yeah, I didn't, you know, and when I was transitioning out, you know, I got out, you know, before 9/11, and but when I was transitioning out, you didn't hear a lot about the VA and resources, you know, when you were getting out. And you know, I'm sure it was that way, you know, with the guys coming back from, you know, Afghanistan and Iraq, and when you go that first time and they say, oh, well, you know, we can't do it until, you know, that might be too late. And a lot of guys, you know, myself, would just give up, you know. Like I filed a claim, and you know, years and years ago for my injury, and was denied. So I was just like, I give up. You know, I didn't file again until after I got to Heroes Mile, which was also another God thing, because you know, I wasn't on the street when I started getting my benefits, and you know, I was able to use them for the right thing.
Sarah, that camera went out.
Yep, that's where I'm coming.
Okay. I heard it do the beep beep.
Yep, I'm on it.
You let me know when you're ready. And this might be a question that you have to think about because I didn't ask you to think about this beforehand. So I'll ask it now, and then when she's ready. Do you think you can maybe put a number on the times that you were like maybe told that there will be a delay or you were denied some type of service when it came to your PTSD? Is there any way to quantify that?
There's medical records.
Oh, okay.
but my VA medical records are like that thick, you know. It's
Okay.
So I mean, it's definitely something that can be researched. But you know, when it comes to the periods from when I was like 22 until I was 43, I can't tell you a lot of dates and numbers, and you know, time wasn't really a concept. You know, people ask me, when did that happen? And I'm like, well, I can't tell you exactly when, you know, so I have to just stop and think about, you know, when things happen. But I think it was probably a few times, and you know, sometimes it was help, but it wasn't much help, or it was meds, you know, and you know, I think medication is necessary, but medication without therapy, you know, is kind of, you know, I think kind of defeats the purpose. But they would push a lot of meds on you for your depression and stuff like that. But I feel like that's because that's all they had to do, you know. That's all they could do at the time with staffing. But for me, you know, things kind of fell into place when they were supposed to, is what I believe. You know, it had to happen the way that it happened, and you know, so I try not to dwell too much on the mistakes I made in the past, or all the missed opportunities, or the wrong decisions, and you know, the difficult decisions that I took the easy route. You know, I can't dwell on all that anymore. I try to be grateful for it now, because if it wasn't for all of that, I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. You know, I'd be dead or still be out there using, and it's just like I said, it's a God thing, you know. Like, I was blessed to be able to have opportunities that some people don't, and you know, that's a lot of the reason why all of this with Patrick and Nassau County hit close to home, because I grew up in Nassau County and graduated from West Nassau. I have deep roots out there, and you know, a lot of good friends and family out there, and then this happened, and it was, you know, totally unrelated. Like, I didn't know Patrick from Nassau County, and you know, I feel like because of that, there was something more that I needed to do. You know, like, I felt like, you know, as I don't want to say a sign, but it was like,
You just felt compelled to.
I felt compelled to want to do more, and you know, I've always wanted to do more. I'm not well at talking.
You're doing great.
And talking in front of people. You know, I went to meetings for a long time and didn't talk, and I still don't talk much at them. But I feel like that I have a voice, and I need to say something, you know, and it's just been, I don't know, it's been kind of overwhelming, I guess, this whole situation, and you know, thinking about Officer Moyer's family, and you know, the trauma now that the officers involved in, you know, responding to that, just the snowball effect that comes from this, and you know, and it's scary because the more trauma you have, then the more people aren't going to ask for help, and then the more stuff like this could happen, you know, where people are, you know, hurting other people, self-medicating, hurting themselves. I mean,
Well, if it's okay, I want to get in a little bit more
okay.
for where we're talking, because I want to know, you got on the stand on behalf of Patrick in a way. You were a defense witness. And I want to know how you feel about what he said yesterday. I want you to make me pay for it, is what he said.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, that was the verdict. How do you feel after everything that you heard him say, and also telling the jurors that that could have been you?
Well, I mean, I feel like he did the right thing. I feel like he owned it. You know, you know, he came out and said things that he was advised against saying, and you know, I think that's powerful. You know, I think, you know, when I got on the stand, like, I don't know that if it had been a regular trial for guilt or innocence, that I would have even wanted to participate in it. But this was a character witness thing, and in my heart, I believe that if he got the death penalty and he gets executed, then that's it. There's nothing else can come from Patrick. If he lives, maybe he saves some people. You know, maybe he changes some lives, and you know, he uses this to do his best, you know, to help others, and tells his story, and you know, and even though all of this stuff was really tragic, you know, there can be some hope that comes from it, and you know, it's a big platform, you know, a lot of, you know, media attention and stuff like that, and you know, a lot of it is sad, you know, and but I just think that we need a little bit more hope, you know, especially you know, overcoming trauma. You know, if you don't have any hope, then you know, you're just stuck.
Well, do you think that the PTSD and the drug abuse for veterans was overlooked at all in this trial?
In the trial? Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know that he can blame what happened on that, and he didn't. You know, he said he made a choice, and he knew what he was doing at the time. Could it have been prevented? Maybe, if there had been more opportunity for treatment, you know.
But we know that's what the defense was arguing on his behalf. It didn't work, but that's
Right.
what their argument was.
Well, I mean, yeah, of course that's the argument, and you know, sadly, it's all of the stuff that he went through, you know, and you know, the fact that the prosecution made light of a lot of his trauma. You know, I think stuff like that is a turn off to people as well that are seeking help, because they're like, oh, well, my trauma wasn't that bad, you know, so, you know, they don't come and ask for help.
But you want them to.
I want them to, yes.
Yeah. So you don't want what was said in court to deter anyone from coming forward about their trauma?
No, I don't. No, I want everybody to feel comfortable with being able to come forward with their trauma and their mental health and get the help that they need, you know, so they can get back to living a life, you know,
You're,
like I have a life now that I never thought I would have for a very long time. You know, I had no hope, and now I have just this great life that God has given me. I have, you know, a beautiful family, you know, a girlfriend, and you know, her boys are, you know, I go to Little League games, and you know, I was at the Little League park the other day, and it's the same Little League park where Patrick was apprehended, and
Wow.
yeah, I actually walked over. This was before the trial, and kind of looked at the place where they had apprehended him, and so it's, you know, it's close to my heart, all of it, and
yeah.
but yeah, I would like for people to feel comfortable and be able to come forward and have the help they need then, you know, right then, because tomorrow might be too late.
Can I ask you, I want to go back to what you said. You were saying you don't know if it can be directly attributed to the crime, but I want to ask you, like, you told the court that you had a few run-ins with law. Do you think, you know, based on your PTSD and your self-medication, did that contribute to your run-ins with law enforcement?
Yes,
It did.
I believe so. Yeah, I mean, had I been treating my PTSD properly, I wouldn't have been using drugs, and I wouldn't have had run-ins with the law.
So can we say that could have been the case for Patrick McDowell?
Yes, I mean, yes, absolutely. We could say that, but it's not the way it happened, you know. But it's more difficult than it should be, I think. And when that happens, it's just, people just want to give up. You know?
Because I guess in closing here, kind of what I want to make sure that we address is it your feelings that despite the verdict, that people who experience PTSD and substance abuse should still be trying to get help because it's likely that they could go and commit crimes?
Absolutely. I think any type of mental health, you know, a lot of the homeless people on the streets suffer from mental health issues, and maybe if they had the treatment, they wouldn't be homeless. You know, a lot of crime is drug related, and you know, if people weren't seeking the drugs, and there wouldn't be people selling the drugs, and there wouldn't be people stealing to get money to buy the drugs, and people losing hope. You know, I just want to say this, is that, you know, the past 4 years that I've been getting my life together, I have known so many people to lose this battle in one way or another, whether it's like Patrick, you know, lost his fight, right? His battle's over, and guys that have killed themselves or overdosed, and if it really got down to the numbers, this was like a small group of people that I was with at one time, living with, and a lot of those guys didn't make it. I don't know what the statistics would be on it, but it's a lot. Yeah. It's a lot. And just like they said about the guys in Patrick's unit or whatever that took their own lives, I mean, this is a real thing, you know, and I think it's important for people to feel comfortable with coming forward and talking. And then I guess the hope, regardless of comfort, and still coming forward and talking, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not much of a talker. You know, I didn't really want to come do this today. You know, it's kind of like, today, really? But I had hope that something good could come of it.
Yeah.
So,
is there anything that you did not get to say on the stand that you want to make sure that you say here? Because I guess, would it be fair to say that it's a concern for you that, you know, people or veterans would see what happened to Patrick McDowell and feel that they have no hope?
ask that again.
So I guess my question is, in shorter, what is your concern after seeing Patrick McDowell given a death penalty sentence, after hearing a bunch of witnesses like yourself get on the stand and say that, you know, PTSD and substance abuse and crime, they're all connected?
Yes, they are all connected. I think the decision made against Patrick was a just decision. It was what God had intended to happen. And, you know, now he's gonna, you know, he's the consequences of his actions. And, but I think that if the treatment, the help was easier, and especially for guys coming back from combat and then them just being put out on the street, you know, a lot of times, I believe people don't even have the trauma or feel the trauma when you're in it, when you're in the midst of it, when you have that unity, when the guy next to you has been through that same trauma. It really starts to affect you when you get away from those guys and you're out there, you know, in the normal community, you know, in the civilian world, and you don't have those people to talk to. And I think maybe that there should be more of a process with veterans who are getting out, more help, more opportunity, more instruction on, you know, the VA, and maybe evaluated for trauma before they even get out of the military. That way there's some kind of hope and help when they get out.
So you think that if Patrick McDowell had more help when it comes to addressing his PTSD and substance abuse, then maybe this would not have happened?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that you think you want to say? Any veterans out there? Because I mean, I know a lot of you are watching. I know a lot of them saw what happened.
Right.
Can't imagine how you even feel after all of that. I mean, to see one of your own in a situation like this. How did that feel initially?
It hurt. It hurt bad. I mean, like I said, because of, you know, multiple reasons. Because it was you know, I knew Patrick and I knew who he was. I don't believe that the person that committed the crime was the same person I knew. I think that when you're in the midst of the using, you're not in reality. Your decision making doesn't make sense. That's not an excuse for what happened. But I think that, I mean, it really did hurt, but there's a lot of gratitude that I'm where I'm at, you know, and I think with that being said, there is a chance for anybody suffering from mental health disorders or PTSD or addiction or whatever to have a normal life. It's a battle every day. Every day it's a battle for me to get up and move forward. And some days I don't.
Right.
Most days I do. And but there is, you know, to all those guys out there who think there's no hope, there is hope. There definitely is.
Is that everything you wanted to get off your chest, kind of? You don't know? Okay. That's fine. I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable after leaving here, that you know, you said it's much larger than just Patrick McDowell.
Right.
So I want to make sure you got that.
Well, I think we covered a lot of that. Like I was saying, is not just about veterans. To me, this is about, you know, first responders as well. And you know, I brought some papers with me of some articles that I'd read about, you know, the first responder, you know, suicide rate, and you know, the struggles that they also have with PTSD. And you know, like I said, this is a snowball effect. So now, as a result of Patrick's untreated PTSD, now there's going to be others that have PTSD, you know.
Because of what he did.
I can only imagine the officers that showed up and found their friend, you know. As bad as it hurt to see my friend get arrested for that, I could only imagine how they felt, you know. So there's a lot of empathy there,
Yeah.
you know.